Good evening and a warm welcome to The Globe, coming to you live from Johannesburg. I'm Simpiwe Ngongwane.
A very good evening to you. I'm Lulu Gabu. Thank you for joining us. 25 Nigerian soldiers and more than 40 jihadists have been killed in fierce clashes between a regional force and IS-affiliated fighters in northeast Nigeria. The military says fighters from the Islamic State in the West Africa province launched an attack on an army base near the town of Baga on Lake Chad.
The head of a local anti-jihadist militia confirmed the death toll.
Military sources in the country say the military group Islamic State in West Africa, ISWAP, arrived in pickups at dawn in the city of Baga on the shores of Lake Chad in the far northeast of Nigeria. The group broke away from the main Boko Haram jihadist group in 2016 due to ideological differences. They added that ISWAP fighters carried out a first attack on the Baga base before being repelled. In their flight, they fought other battles against a military convoy arriving from the Borno state capital, Maiduguri. Thursday's attack is the third this week. On Monday, the multinational Joint Task Force MNJTF said 10 jihadists and a soldier were killed at the base, while 5 troops were injured. The MNJTF is a 5-nation anti-military force headquartered in the Chadian capital N'Djamena, comprising troops from Nigeria, Niger, Chad, Cameroon, Benin, set up to fight jihadists in the Lake Chad region. Islamic State, in a Wednesday statement, claimed its fighters killed 25 soldiers in an assault on a military base in Beni Sheikh in northeast Nigeria's Borno state. At the weekend, at least 65 people were killed in Borno, the birthplace of the insurgency, when militants targeted civilians traveling from a funeral.
For more on this story, we joined live from Abuja, Nigeria, by our correspondent, Phil Ihaza. Very good evening to you, Phil. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, we understand that the death toll could possibly be higher. So has any confirmation been made as to the exact death toll?
Well, thank you. For now, there are no official confirmation or response from the presidency, but reports say that at least 25 soldiers were killed in that attack that happened in Baga, that's the border of Borno State. It also borders some other Lake Chad countries like Niger, Cameroon. But what we also know is that the military, as at Monday when the attack occurred, released a statement saying that they successfully repelled the attack, a very intense attack, and 10 terrorists were killed. Many others were injured. They also recovered, ammunition from the terrorists, and one soldier lost his life, not telling us which nationality that is, and as well as about 5 other soldiers were severely injured and evacuated for medical attention. But what we can say from local reports and local sources is that at least 45 terrorists were killed and 25 soldiers were killed in that attack as well. It was indeed an intense one that happened, like I said earlier, in Baga, that's in Borno State, as well as the border with other Lake Chad countries, the Lake Chad region.
And we understand that this new group, ISWAP, which is a breakaway faction of loyal to ISIS, just who are they? Are they the new problem or a new thorn in the government's neck?
Well, they broke out in 2016. Now, you would understand that Boko Haram has been in existence, or rather been fiercely in existence since 2009, when the founding leader or head, that Mohammed Yusuf, was killed in custody. Now, so in 2015, the Boko Haram insurgents at the time were led by just one leader, Abubakar Shekau. He pledged allegiance to ISIS, but by 2016, for some reason that we're not so clear about yet, another leader was picked to head this faction that's broke out. That's the Islamic State of West Africa province, allegedly led by the son of the founder now, Mohammed Yusuf. He keeps a low profile, so there's not so much about him. But what we've seen since the ISWAP, the group, broke out, is that there's been some form of coordination. There's been some form of tactical approach in especially focusing on military formations and trying to gain more ground and establish the Islamic Caliphate that they've been, canvassing for this long. So they are indeed a group, and it's security analysts say they're stretching the military because now the military is beginning to face this insurgency war in two fronts: the other faction led by Shekau and this new faction led by the son of the founder. That's Abu Musab al-Banawi. That's the ISWAP faction.
Yeah, and the Baga military naval base on the shores of the lake where jihadists are entrenched has been the victim of repeated attacks since 2014, with the latest being December last year. Now, surely the government should start concentrating military presence around this area to safeguard the local communities, isn't it?
Yes, that's very right, and that's also the reason why there was a meeting with, Nigeria's president and the leaders of the Lake Chad, the countries making up the Lake Chad region, Cameroon, Niger, Chad, and some other ones. That's sometime late last year, where they tried to reinforce the multinational joint task force military operation that already exists in that area, especially the naval base, like you mentioned, in the Baga community where there's been repeated attacks. And also that's the reason why the intense fighting between the soldiers that happened on Monday could have been worse if not for the joint task force military operation, because it was a sort of ambush. The terrorists must have given a wrong calculation and targeted or went after that base, but as they were repelled, another infantry that was approaching the base, sort of ambushed them, and the massacre was intense. That's the reason why they recorded more success on the part of the military and killed more terrorists.
We see on the one hand, Phil Ihaza, the Nigerian presidency being at pains yesterday trying to explain that they have actually defeated Boko Haram's 10-year insurgency. And then on the other hand, they're saying that they're still yet to increase the country's military capacity by expecting the long-awaited delivery of the Super Tucano turboprop warplanes from the United States beginning next year. And we see civilians being killed almost on a daily basis. We see soldiers being killed almost on a daily basis. So has Boko Haram been defeated, really?
Well, we kind of really say that Boko Haram has been defeated until we stop seeing these repeated attacks on civilians, on military formations, on villages, on properties. But as the president has said, and the government has repeatedly claimed to have tackled, or rather decimated or technically defeated, the Boko Haram insurgents, you'd also recall that, like you said, the aircraft is supposed to start coming in from 2020. The military has been stretched for some time now. There's also reports of the insurgents still operating in the Lake Chad region. At this point, they're even installing the Islamic Caliphate, some sort of communicating with the indigents in that region, trying to see how that they can buy sympathy or arouse sympathy with the community, the people that are indigents of that community. So you cannot really say Boko Haram war is over, because security analysts have argued that it's more of an ideology, it's an asymmetric warfare, and until that ideology is tackled, where more dialogue, more approach in terms of Muslim monarchs, Muslim preachers, trying to change the mindset of these people that dwell in that region, so that we don't have willing recruits to the ranks and file of Boko Haram sector. Until that happens, we cannot really say that Boko Haram insurgency in Nigeria is far over.
And as Nigerians await the final decimation of the Boko Haram insurgency, does the country have the capacity to defeat Boko Haram?
Talking about capacity, the country has never, there's no question about the country not having the capacity to defeat Boko Haram insurgency. What security analysts are saying is that we just need to ensure that that capacity is put to good use, ensure that the country's policing is improved so that the soldiers are not stretched to defend the country at different fronts. You'll recall that we have not just the Boko Haram insurgency as an insecurity matter in the country. There's the herders and farmers clashes. There's some level of increase in kidnappings and banditry in the south, in the northwest. Several issues, and the military, even during elections, are involved in ensuring security. So the insecurity challenge is beyond just the military. It's about all fronts of defense, the police, the civil defense, the military, that's talking about the Air Force, the Navy, and of course the Army. So talking about capacity, yes, indeed, the country has a capacity, but we're looking at a case where corruption, inefficiency, lackadaisicity, and all of that is taken away, because if you rate the military outside of Nigeria in peacekeeping missions, they always do well. So the issue or the matter has been trying to ensure that the capacity of the military, the strength of the military is put to good use to put an end to insurgency in the country.
All right, Phil Ihaza, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time. That was our correspondent, Phil Ihaza, speaking to us live from Nigeria.